As a result, not many people joined. They were talking about Hyuna's brother, Hyunsung, and the guild leader was also planning to invite her sister to join their guild. She had recently ranked up to unique rank, so Rin was expecting her to join them. Rin mentioned that she was already level 50 after just a month of playing. Her teammates were amazed, as such a rank and level were typically achieved within 2 months, and they thought her control was impressive. Everyone in the guild agreed that Rin's sister should join them. Rin, however, mentioned that she wouldn't be able to log into her main account to help her sister. In idea, it was challenging to collect the specific items you needed. While hunting, players often accumulated more materials than complete items, leading many to create sub-accounts with classes focused on manufacturing. The guildmaster began distributing the items, which was always the most exciting part, dividing the acquired drops. After gathering all the items, the group returned to the guild house. Hyunsung defeated the vengeful spirit of the orc warriors and received 1 DP as a reward. He then proceeded to another floor, entering through its door. The room he entered was 5 times larger than the mini-boss room, fitting for the massive size of the boss waiting inside. Hyunsung wondered if the creature was asleep. Being a raid monster, it was likely to have multiple phases. Hyunsung planned to refrain from using his ultimate skill during Phase 1. Once Phase 2 began, he intended to unleash both the Reaper's Chains and Sabbath of Death. As the monster awoke, its deafening roar sent shivers down Hyunsung's spine. He began his assault, but suddenly, his vision blurred. He found it impossible to keep his eyes open. The skill Thananos's narcolepsy had activated, forcing him into sleep. As a result, the Thananos's somnambulism has been triggered. The atmosphere in the user management room brightened as Hyunsung fell asleep. They appreciated the timing of the activation of his narcolepsy skill during such a critical moment. One of them thought that even with the somnambulism skill, no AI would be able to defeat a raid boss monster as formidable as Carrick. Another asked the team leader about the somnambulism skill, pointing out that it allowed an avatar to mimic how a player would naturally act. This meant that Hyunsung's mechanics would be replicated perfectly. The team leader confirmed the observation and remarked that Hyunsung would indeed be able to defeat the monster. However, the leader clarified that they weren't celebrating the possibility of Hyunsung failing to defeat the beast. They knew full well that after activating Thananos's somnambulism, Hyunsung would easily overpower Carrick, especially with abilities like Sabbath of Death and Reaper's Chains. They hinted that the reason behind their confidence would become evident later. With a quiet thought, the team leader mused that it seemed the gods had not abandoned them just yet. After 20 minutes, Hyunsung successfully defeated Carrick, leaving the spectators in awe. They noticed that the AI appeared to have better control compared to Hyunsung himself. They realized that once Hyunsung became more accustomed to his skills, he would also be able to achieve the same level of mastery. This was because the AI was designed to operate flawlessly within the idea. Truly, it was remarkable. However, Hyunsung's character simply lay down and continued sleeping, surprising everyone. They wondered why Hyunsung wasn't collecting the items, knowing that they would disappear after a short time. This was precisely what the team leader had mentioned earlier. The team leader found this amusing because they knew it would happen. The somnambulism skill was designed solely for combat purposes. This meant that once the enemy was defeated, the user would return to a sleeping state. Moreover, if a hidden dungeon was cleared, it would reset, and the user would be sent to the nearest village. As a result, the items would vanish after the boss was defeated. Hyunsung felt disappointed. What's wrong with this game? He thought. What kind of game includes narcolepsy? Despite his frustration, he remained positive. His friend, Jaewon, gave him a call. It had been quite a while since they last met because Hyunsung had been too busy. Jaewon and Hyunsung had been close friends since middle school. Hyunsung asked Jaewon why he had called. Jaewon, now a company president, responded warmly. Hyunsung congratulated him and asked what Jaewon had been up to. Jaewon explained that he was creating advertisements and editing videos to improve their visual appeal, particularly videos related to idea. Because the time ratio in idea compared to reality was 5:1, live streaming wasn't possible. Even so, idea had gained massive global popularity due to its entertaining content. The only challenge was that most skilled video editors worked for large companies. As a result, many MeTube managers outsourced video editing to smaller companies to ensure a decent product. Since many viewers enjoyed watching players with excellent control, The videos often had to be edited to make the players appear more skilled in combat. This was why Jaewon had started a video editing company specializing in creating content about idea. Hyunsung asked Jaewon if he had already contracted any MeTubers. Jaewon admitted that their company had just opened a day ago, so they hadn't secured any contracts yet. They planned to start looking for potential collaborations the following day. Jaewon then shifted the conversation to Hyunsung's recent changes. Knowing Hyunsung's personality, Jaewon was certain he wouldn't just leave his job without a good reason. He asked Hyunsung about his grand plan. Hyunsung replied confidently, saying that he planned to make money using the game idea. Curious, Jaewon asked if Hyunsung had been playing idea regularly. To Jaewon's surprise, Hyunsung revealed that it hadn't even been a full day since he started playing the game. Jaewon was shocked and immediately asked Hyunsung what class he had obtained. Knowing how quickly Jaewon could grasp things, Hyunsung straightforwardly admitted that he had acquired a god rank. Jaewon was stunned into silence and quickly took a drink of his wine. After recovering, he asked Hyunsung what level he was currently at. Hyunsung wasn't entirely sure but estimated that he was around level 30. Jaewon was even more surprised, pointing out that it hadn't even been a full day since Hyunsung started. In real time, it hadn't even been 24 hours, only about 8 hours. Jaewon enthusiastically encouraged Hyunsung to collaborate with him in making videos. He reminded Hyunsung that he had received offers to become a professional player when he was younger. Moreover, Hyunsung now had a god rank. Jaewon explained that MeTubers earned around $8,000 per video, though Hyunsung dismissed it as an exaggeration. Jaewon clarified that a well-produced video could earn $8,000 in a month, and top-tier MeTubers with excellent control could earn as much as $80,000 monthly. Hearing this, Hyunsung immediately asked where the contract was and where he needed to sign. Jaewon burst out laughing, amused by the fact that Hyunsung already had a pen in hand. Hyunsung asked if there was anything he needed to prepare. Jaewon explained that all Hyunsung had to do was log into the game and say, "Start filming," to capture footage. Afterward, he could simply send the files to Jaewon, who would handle everything else. It sounded simple enough, but Hyunsung expressed concern about his lack of confidence in acting. Jaewon reassured him, saying that people nowadays are more interested in players with exceptional controls rather than acting skills. Since Jaewon had more knowledge about these things, Hyunsung suggested that Jaewon manage his MeTube channel entirely. Jaewon advised him not to be so trusting with others. He warned that if Hyunsung made the same offer to someone else, they might try to take a bigger cut of the earnings due to his kindness. Jaewon added that he only said this because he was a close friend. Hyunsung explained that he made the suggestion because he lacked knowledge about MeTube and trusted Jaewon to handle it better. Hyunsung wanted to split the earnings with Jaewon, but Jaewon insisted that at least 80% should go to Hyunsung. Hyunsung asked if it was hard for Jaewon to just say yes and move on. Jaewon had once lent him money meant for his college tuition, which Hyunsung used to pay some of Hyuna's hospital bills. Hyunsung would never forget this kindness, and he was deeply grateful. Hyunsung proposed a 50-50 split, stating that if Jaewon didn't agree, he wouldn't work on making the videos with him. Jaewon recalled the bullying he endured in middle school for being overweight. Hyunsung was the only friend who reached out to him during that time. As Jaewon thought about the offer, he wondered whether to take half of the earnings, but in the end, he decided that all the earnings should go to Hyunsung. Upon returning home, Hyunsung immediately searched for the USB port on the capsule and copied the saved footage. He selected the most recent footage and sent it to Jaewon. Jaewon quickly played the footage he received. Hyunsung had used a mask to conceal his identity. Jaewon liked the footage. It seemed it didn't need any editing or cuts. However, instead of watching everything, he focused on the battle between Hyunsung and the boss. "Let's take a look at the boss," he thought. And there it was, the boss. Jaewon couldn't help but wonder about Hyunsung's performance. It seemed as though Hyunsung had fallen asleep at some point. There was something strange about his style. Even though the controls were the same, the approach was drastically different. Hyunsung's attacks precisely targeted weak points. During his battle with the mini-boss, he fought like a wild hunter, ferocious and relentless. But now, against the boss, his movements were calculated and precise. They were as refined as those of a knight. It was as if he had become a different person. While the wild hunter's style was impressive in its own way, the knight's style was astonishing. If the hunter's approach involved rushing at the enemy with reckless abandon, the knight's style left no openings for the opponent, delivering precise and relentless attacks. As the battle reached Phase 2, Jaewon could feel a sinister atmosphere emanating from the scene. "Can't it move?" he muttered to himself. Then, Hyunsung used Reaper's chains. "This is madness," Jaewon thought, awestruck. After watching the video, Jaewon immediately contacted Hyunsung. He couldn't believe what he had seen. It wasn't something a normal person could do. He asked Hyunsung what skill he had used to defeat the boss. When Hyunsung woke up, he promptly returned Jaewon's call. Jaewon had been awake all night watching the video. Hyunsung assumed that Jaewon had stayed up because the video wasn't good. However, Jaewon assured him that it was the best. "This is the most impressive video I've ever seen," Jaewon said, adding that not even the #1 ranked player could create something like this. Hyunsung, relieved, suggested that if the video was that good, Jaewon should upload it as soon as possible. Jaewon replied that he and his team would pull all-nighters for an entire week just to finish editing these videos. Jaewon thought to himself that he might not need to work on anything else after this. He reassured Hyunsung not to worry about the video and promised to upload it to MeTube immediately. Jaewon then sent a message to his team, informing them about their first project. He told them that the man in the video was his friend and that they would now be working closely with him. Hyuna asked Hyunsung if, since he didn't want to reveal his class, he could at least tell her his rank. Hyunsung replied that a person's rank is determined by their class, so if he revealed his class, she would automatically know his rank. "Why would I do that?" he added. Hyuna then asked if Hyunsung was at least a unique rank. Hyunsung answered confidently, "Of course." He explained that if he were any lower than that, he wouldn't have considered leaving his previous job. Hyuna guessed that Hyunsung was at least a heroic rank. She felt happy because that meant Hyunsung met the requirements to join a guild. Of course, if Hyunsung didn't want to join, there was nothing she could do about it. Meanwhile, Rin's sister leveled up from 52 to 60 in just one day. Even with Rin's help, it was an incredibly fast progression for someone of unique rank. Hyuna asked Hyunsung what level he was currently at. Hyunsung replied that he wasn't sure but estimated it to be around level 30. Hyuna was shocked. Starting from level 1 and reaching level 30 in just one day seemed impossible. She wondered if Hyunsung was joking with her. To confirm, she asked if Hyunsung had really started just yesterday. Hyunsung immediately confirmed it. Hyuna then asked if Hyunsung had mentioned switching his class at level 1. Hyunsung nodded and said that was exactly what had happened. Hyuna was stunned and speechless by what she had heard. Seeing her reaction, Hyunsung asked if there was something on his face. Hyuna explained that she was simply amazed at how quickly Hyunsung had leveled up. When Hyunsung logged in, he was flooded with an overwhelming number of messages. Curious, he immediately checked the items he had obtained from defeating the boss. He was excited to see what valuable loot he had earned. However, he wondered if the items from the hidden dungeon were still secured in his inventory. To his surprise, there was absolutely nothing. Hyunsung had slept for 40 hours due to his narcolepsy skill, which also granted him stat bonuses. His strength increased by 10, reaction speed by 3, stamina by 5, magic power by 15, and intelligence by 7. A system notification appeared, stating, "Because you cleared the hidden dungeon, it has now been converted into a regular dungeon. It is recommended to retrieve the items as soon as possible. You have defeated the boss. Thananos' somnambulism has been deactivated. Due to the dungeon's reset, you have been transported to the nearest town." Now piecing everything together, Hyunsung realized that he was already in the village when he logged in. Hyunsung opened his status window. He realized that if he allocated more points into his strength, magic power, and stamina, he could make use of Iris's failed product 1. He also discovered that he had gained a new skill, Thananos' Nocturne. The skill's effect was as follows. For every successful attack by the user, the opponent would accumulate nightmare stacks. If the stacks were activated, all enemies with stacks, up to a maximum of 10, would receive 300% damage per stack. The cooldown for the skill was 1 hour. Since it didn't require mana or DP, Hyunsung could use it as long as the cooldown had passed. It was classified as a god-grade skill. Of course, such powerful items were only obtainable by clearing a hidden dungeon. Hyunsung thought that there might have been a skill book in the hidden dungeon, which prompted him to immediately rush back to the area. The guards, seeing his sudden sprint, assumed he was running to avoid paying the money they had given him. Hyunsung chased after a monster and demanded that it give him the map to the hidden dungeon. However, it was gone, the secret passage. Laughing to himself, Hyunsung remarked that he was fortunate to have such good luck. He didn't know what to do next, and he couldn't stop laughing. Two guards, witnessing his behavior, assumed they should just forget about the money they had given him. Hyunsung, now in a more positive mood, thought to himself that at least he hadn't died.